Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman who ever lived. 61 duels, 61 wins.
No losses.
Listen, this dude was so gangster, he caught his first body at the age of 13 by, get this, competing in a sword duel against a grown-ass sword-wielding adult who Miyamoto Musashi beat to death with a wooden stick, bruh. Miyamoto Musashi was a down! And in a way, Miyamoto Musashi kinda actually caught his first body the day he was born in 1584. His mother died, giving birth to him. Of course, you can't blame an infant for a mother dying during childbirth, but that didn't stop Musashi's father from blaming his infant son for the death of his wife during childbirth. Papa Musashi hated his seed the second it was born, and the problem was that Miyamoto Musashi's dad was none other than Shinmen Munisai, and his nickname, Musohei Hosa, the Unequaled. As you can tell by the nickname, Munisai was considered one of the great swordsmen of his time, and when he wasn't proving his skill in wars, leading armies, he put his sword skill on display against his son when Miyamoto was just 7. The Unequaled threw a knife at a 7-year-old son, but Musashi dodged that thing like the Matrix, and then this little kid decided to just leave home, like,
let's go! Stop beating your chest, you're making a rage.
Luckily, Miyamoto Musashi's entire family seemed to have been descendants of the legendary Saiyajin, so his uncle was literally a warrior monk, basically the coolest class in every video game, and that uncle took Musashi in, meaning that at just 7 years young, Miyamoto Musashi literally began his warrior training arc in a Buddhist temple, and I mean, that's such an anime cliche. Insane, but there's gonna be more. His uncle taught Miyamoto both the art of the sword and the art of the pen, the art of combat and art itself. So Musashi was a sophisticated killer when he caught his first body 6 years later, entering the aforementioned first official sword duel at age 13 to test his gangster against an adult, and basically the battle went like this.
Put up your hands. You a pro, right?
No. You gonna get the shit knocked out of you. You ain't got to prove nothing to me.
Bro, listen to your family, boy.
Oh my God. Man, at least put on your headgear.
No headgear? Mm-hmm. On you.
Kill it, right? Here, kill it, all right, little dude?
So yeah, at 13 years old, Musashi literally embarrassed an adult swordsman, except the adult wasn't embarrassed because he was dead. 13-year-old Musashi beat him to death with a 6-foot quarterstaff. And remember that the next time you complain that in anime all these dudes are meant to be 14 years young while acting like OGs, saving the world and killing people, I guess it's realistic. I guess it's just the Musashi way of life. Word of this 13-year-old slayer quickly spread, so when Papa Musashi heard that his teenage son was a real killer now, he finally had something to be proud of and decided to turn a new page in his worst dad ever campaign by enlisting his teenage son in his army to fight in his first war. Good parenting. But still, finally, son and father were And while my dad came to all my basketball games, Papa Musashi came to all of his son's wars, and soon teenage Miyamoto Musashi had several of them under his belt, while also continuing to fight in many sword duels, going undefeated in all of them. One of the most epic of those duels came in 1604 when a 19-year-old Musashi embarrassed an entire school of swordsmanship, the Yoshioka clan. First, Musashi whooped their best fighter. Then that guy's master and brother wanted to avenge his fallen bro, so Musashi whooped him too, and because the clan hadn't gotten embarrassed enough, they decided to ambush Miyamoto Musashi with 100 people in the forest on some real after-school revenge thing. But when they did, Musashi went straight for the leader, beat him out, I was gonna cuss. Can't cuss, man, we don't do that. Beat him down, not beat his you-know-what, beat him down by beating his you-know-what, and everyone was too shook as Musashi then just walked away, leaving these 199 dudes, like, I mean, I'm getting, this is an anime cliche, for real, but this is Musashi's life. And since Musashi deceased so many masters, he was regularly revenge attacked by groups of people, so he learned that when faced with more than one opponent, 2 swords are better than 1, and he casually mastered fighting with those 2 swords and opened his own school teaching the way of 2 swords, known as Niten Ichi Ryu. At this point, Musashi was a legend and had made all sword masters in Japan his sons, and he literally proved to be unkillable even in warfare. So eventually it was time for a bit of a challenge. And it just so happened that in the western province there lived a man known simply as a demon. A demon Musashi was aching to fight, since some fools claimed that this other swordsman, this demon, was truly the greatest to ever wield a sword. And that man was 16th century Japan had more than one master of the sword. And while Miyamoto Musashi did his thing in his part of Japan, Sasaki Kojiro, the demon of the western provinces, was carving up people left and right in his own right. Dude was clearly on that guts juice too, because his weapon of choice was the nodashi, a sword that can be well over 100 centimeters long. And while still in training with this monstrosity of a sword, young Kojiro sent his master's younger brother into the afterlife, and then acted like he wouldn't get kicked out of the dojo for that, talking about, I think it's time to move away and start my own school. You know, let me just step on over this dead body of your younger brother here real quick. Sorry, sensei. He then did open his own school, and his sword style propelled Sasaki Kojiro to fame. The Ganryu sword style. Not only do you hear that name, Ganryu, in every other anime, no, Sasaki Kojiro also basically was a real-life anime character himself. Dude literally named his special attack Tsubame Geshi, the turning swallow cut, a downward cut immediately followed by cutting upwards that should have been impossible with a 100+ centimeter sword, but Kojiro was just that dude. Also, I personally like to believe that Kojiro consistently shouted the technique's name before using it. In Japanese, I forgot the name, but since this dates back to the 16th century, we'll never truly really know. I'm sure he did. That was kind of how Sasaki Kojiro came up in the world. And there was no one that cared about swords even a little bit that hadn't heard of this special attack naming 100 centimeter sword wielding madman. So the other madman, who at this point was 30 years old, Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated in 60 duels, felt like it was time to add another body to his count. And so Miyamoto Musashi and Kojiro agreed to a duel on a remote island on April 13th in 1612, an epic showdown between the 2 greatest swordsmen, and on the fateful day, as everyone anticipated the battle, Miyamoto Musashi showed up 3 hours late. That's my guy. Yo, while Sasaki Kojiro was waiting for the dude with his 100-something centimeter sword ready, Musashi was casually rowing to the island with not a care in the world, carving a sword out of his boat's oar right before the fight, just to have a sword longer than Sasaki Kojiro, because size does matter. Now, it sounds super badass that the guy would fight Sasaki Kojiro, who is wielding a real sword with nothing but a wooden sword, and people always make a huge deal out of this, as did I in the beginning of the video. But in the hands of a sword master, a wooden sword is just as deadly as a real sword. Any strong blow to any part of your body will render that part of your body useless, and a blow to your head with a wooden sword will kill you all the same. And that's exactly what Miyamoto Musashi did. He struck Sasaki Kojiro right in the head, and rumor has it that at exactly the same time, the same moment, Sasaki Kojiro had grazed Miyamoto Musashi's forehead. But since his metal sword was shorter than the freshly carved oar, Miyamoto Musashi had the reach advantage, and his blow killed Sasaki Kojiro instantly. Evil tongues later stated that Miyamoto showed up late on purpose to allow the sun to rise, so that when the duel started, Musashi could position himself in a way that Kojiro would be blinded by the light like the weekend. Also, it's argued that Musashi's tardiness was a strategic move, since he knew it would make Kojiro mad, and Musashi knew.
I'm making them mad. Most guys don't play good when they're mad.
Look, you know you're embarrassing me. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing I'm doing.
Whatever the case, Musashi crushed Kojiro's skull, and the man was dead on the spot. Because unlike in the movies, real duels, they end quickly. Despite the defeat, the island was then renamed Ganryu Jima in honor of Sasaki Kojiro, and Musashi was so sad that he took the life of a fellow swordsman of such greatness, of such grace, that he never competed in lethal duels again. Instead, Musashi retired to the other life his warrior monk uncle had instilled in him. As he grew older, the man without chill did find his chill and devoted his life to writing books in the mountains, where he wrote the famous Book of Five Rings, which is still studied by military minds today. And if there was one word to summarize the teachings of Miyamoto Musashi, it would be focus! Musashi's life was all about focused practice, be it martial arts or mental arts. That basically meant constant restraint and not being swayed by pleasure ever. In other words, Miyamoto Musashi was the original master, the original sensei of No Nut November.